What's up, guys? This is the Rifleman and I'm here to bring you the next episode of my Command Modern Operations DLC Let's Play of the Desert Storm campaign. So we've completed Mission 1, Invasion, where we've escorted our European-based and continental US-based assets over to Iraq, over towards Saudi Arabia. And then we're on to Scenario 2, the Thin Red Line, which is basically a what-if scenario, as in what would have happened, or what could have happened, if the Iraqi forces had pushed through to the Saudi border. So even though we do have an amount of assets there, we don't necessarily have everything in place, but we've still got an absolute metric crap ton of assets in this mission. So let's crack on. So this will be full... There we go. Coalition forces are continuing their build-up of equipment and personnel in the Middle East, and Saudi Arabia in particular. It has been progressing at a steady rate in spite of the massive amount of material involved in transport from the United States and European countries. Covert intelligence shows indications that Iraq may be planning additional invasions due to its rapid and decisive action with Kuwait. This is supported by significant increases in Iraqi ground forces massing along its border with Saudi Arabia and the heavy transfer of aircraft to captured bases in Kuwait. Iraq's air assets there include F-16s purchased from Iraq during the Iran-Iraq War, Su-25Ks, which are sort of like Russian ground attack aircraft, and Mirage F-1 EQ-5s. Within Iraq, there are several squadrons of MiG-29As, MiG-25P Foxbats, Su-24 Mk Fencer Ds, and Mirage F-1 EQ-6s. There has been increased communication between the Iraqi and Iranian governments. The substance of these talks is unknown, but could portend more military aggression from Iraq. The coalition forces must prepare for any further incursions while military assets continue the build-up process. So this Iraq-Iran flavour that some of the later missions will have are very much hypothetical. Because at this point in reality they had fought a bitter war along their borders and there was no love lost, but this is kind of a bit of a what if Iraq had managed to use Iran's hatred of the United States? Could they have brokered some interesting stuff? But this will emerge more in later scenarios. But let's begin and let's have a look at what forces we have to play with. Let's begin the scenario. Let's go for 1 second. Good. So, lots of assets to play with, and we have a satellite which looks like I don't think it's going to make too many relevant passes. KH-11B Crystal has a mass int visual reconnaissance satellite frame camera, but it's got a very large range, so maybe it might provide something useful, but that remains to be seen. So let's start from the northwest and work our way through the country. Let's turn off range symbols for selected units just to make things tidy. So up here at Inslick Air Base, we have got 6 RAF Tornadoes armed with Skyflash air-to-air weapons. We have 3 E-3 Sentry aircraft for airborne early warning, and 3 KC-10 refueling tankers. So these guys are probably going to be doing a airborne early warning track to maintain visual on northwestern Iraq. In the Mediterranean, we have the CV-60 Task Force, which is a carrier group headed up by the USS Saratoga. We have got about 40 Tomahawks, we've got harpoons, and we've got some decent surface-to-air weapons. They also have a suite of aircraft. SH-60B armed with torpedoes. We have some Prowlers armed with offensive electronic warfare loadouts. F-18s with Mark 82 Snake Eyes, which I think are 500-pound bombs, but the Snake Eye attachment is, I can't remember what they do. It's a low drag general purpose guided bomb. Well, unguided bomb. For low level delivery, so I suppose it's to reduce the speed at which it hits the ground, sort of like a parachute effect. Then we have Sea Kings armed with torpedoes, one armed with just maritime surveillance. The maritime surveillance loadout. We have 5 Tomcats, 4 with Phoenixes and 1 with a reconnaissance pod. 2 A6s or KA6s rolled for tank for tanker loadouts, and we also have some A6s rolled for with Mavericks. Here's some F-18As armed with Walleye, so standoff air-to-ground munition. We have 3 AWACS aircraft in the form of Hawkeyes. We also have some S3s that could do some maritime surveillance and anti-submarine warfare work. Another batch of Tomcats, and we also have 1 C2, which doesn't really do anything, but it helps clutter up the flight deck and make things a bit more realistic. We also have a hostile airbase here at Jordan, which we'll need to keep an eye on to make sure they didn't launch any aircraft that might impede our transit of aircraft from the carrier group. Then at King Faisal Air Base we have just 3 F-15Cs armed with Sparrows. Down at King Fahad we have 9 F-111s with a variety of general purpose bombs and cluster munitions. 3 EF-111s rolled for offensive electronic warfare, and we have 2 F-15s also armed with Sparrows. Then hopping over to the east coast for a moment, we have Prince Sultan Air Base. We have 12 F-15Es armed with cluster munitions and guided bombs, and we also have 5 F-16s armed with Sparrows. On the coast at King Fahad we've got a whole bunch of A-10s, 6 A-10s, 6 with Mavericks, another 6 with Mavericks. These are infrared seeking, these are electro-optic seeking, and another lot with electro-optic sensors. 6 F-15s armed with Sparrows, and we have some Chinooks with Rangers and infantry, and we also have some electronic warfare Hercules in the form of compass calls. Then at Dhahran we have 2 KC-135Qs for refueling our Blackbirds, 2 Hercules with cargo, 3 airborne early warning sentries, 3 KC-135Rs for air refueling, 3 F-15Cs with Sparrows, 3 KC-10s for air refueling, another 3 F-15Cs with Sparrows, and another 2 KC-135Es for air-to-air refueling. Then in Bahrain at Doha we have 6 F-4 Phantoms with harms. We have 3 F-16s armed with rocket eye Mark 29. I'm sure the CB is probably cluster bomb. Let's have a look at that. Oh, it is 247 times Mark 118 dual-purpose bomblets. We have 6 Phantoms with reconnaissance loadouts, and we have another 6 Phantoms with Shrikes. Shrikes are like anti-radiation munitions, like harm, but the range is much shorter, so you'd probably want to use these when escorting a strike in. And then here in the UAE, you've got a bunch of air bases. So at Al Dhafra, we've got 12 F-16s with Sidewinders, Block 32s with Sidewinders, 3 Block 25 F-16Cs with rocket eyes, and another 3 Block 30 F-16s with cluster munitions. And at Al Bateen, 2 F-15Es with cluster weapons, 2 compass calls for offensive ECM, and 2 KC-135Es. At Al Minhad, we've got 12 F-16s, 4 with Sidewinders, 4 with rocket eyes, and 4 with laser guided bombs. Another 6 F-15Cs, 3 with Mavericks, and 3 with laser guided bombs. And another 3 F-16s with rocket eyes. Lots of air to ground back here. We have a C5 with cargo and a lone F-16 with a Sparrow for some reason. At Al Ain we have 2 C-130s getting ready with cargo loadouts, 3 F-15s with Sparrows, 3 F-15Es with Sparrows, and 3 F-15Es with rocket eyes, and 2 KC-135As with air refueling capability. And at Seeb we have 2 KC-135Es and 2 F-15Cs. The F-15s are equipped with air-to-air weapons, and the tankers are tankers. Down at Mazira we have 2 F-15Es with Sparrows and 2 KC-135As for air-to-air refueling. And we have down here Thumrate, 6 F-15Es, 3 with rocket eyes, and 3 with cluster weapons, and 3 air-to-refueling tankers. Alright, one thing I haven't hopped down to is King Khalid, which has 2 U2s with reconnaissance loadouts, 2 E8 joint with J-stars with side-looking radars, 2 airborne early warning sentry aircraft. Actually, let's minimise these to make sure they don't clutter it up. 2 more U2s with reconnaissance loadouts, 3 more air-to-refueling tankers, 2 rivet joints. We have 9 F-117s, 3 with Mavericks, 3 with GBU-10s, paid by 2s. Are they £1,000 or £2,000? £2,000. Serious bits of kit there. And we have some GBU-27s, which are also £2,000. Penetrating warheads. I think the GBU-10s penetrators too. No, I don't think they are, because they're not got the BLU. The BLU designation. Yeah, just £2,000. Okay. Then we also have 2 SR-71s, which will come in really handy, considering the surface threats. And onto the naval forces in the Gulf. We have Task Force LaSalle, which was from the original scenario, which has got a few useful ships. It's got an amphibious assault ship, Royal Navy destroyer, US destroyer, and 4 US frigates. Then we have 2 carrier task groups whose complements will be very similar. So we have CV-41, we have a Ticonderoga class guided missile cruiser, USS Midway aircraft carrier, Spruance class destroyer, we have guided missile destroyer, and we also have another frigate. Then we have CVN-21, CVN at Theodore Roosevelt. Nimitz class aircraft carrier, which being bigger than the Forrestal, has more aircraft on board. And she is escorted by Ticonderoga class guided missile cruiser, or two Ticonderoga class missile cruisers. The later Gulf may actually have. Nope, I thought it might have some neat toys. So both these carrier groups have very similar loadouts. They have got some short range air defense. They have area range air defense, anti-ship missiles, and a fair number of Tomahawks. That's 20 Tomahawks for the CV-41 and 8 for CVN-81. And the aircraft complements are going to be fairly similar. F-15s with Sparrows, K-6 intruder aircraft with air-to-air refueling. We have some ground attack intruders with Walleyes, F-18s with Walleyes, Sea Kings with maritime surveillance and anti-submarine warfare fits, intruders with Skippers, those are anti-ship weapons I believe, Tomcats with Phoenix loadouts, Prowlers with offensive electronic warfare fits, and some airborne early warning Hawkeyes. And the CVN-71 is going to have a very similar loadout, so I'm not going to go through it a lot. There's a cargo carrying Seahawk, but the majority is going to be very much the same. So we've already gone through 2 carrier task groups, I don't need to go through the third one. So let's load up the scenario briefing. We know that there is an armoured threat from this border, and there will also likely be an airborne threat and a surface-to-air weapon threat based on the fact that they've got all these air bases. And our objective is to protect these border towns and also the oil fields here. You notice these oil fields are actually protected by IHawk battalions, which have 6 weapons apiece, so they're not that useful. So we're going to want to do combat air patrols over this area. And all of these sort of waffle-shaped icons, these are all down to structures and as towns and villages, and these will fall to the enemy as and when things happen. So let's get started with loading up our first missions. Just had to have a little break there. So let's go up to Syria and let's add in some. So let's add a new mission. Let's call it Airborne Early Warning Syria. So this is going to be our first AWACS track from Inslick. Actually, So that mission editor box always shows up, and sometimes I like it showing up and sometimes I don't, so I should probably be a bit more targeted. Then ahead of the airborne only warning track, I'm going to want to put in an air-to-air refueling track for Syria for the combat air patrol. Somewhere close, so they don't have to go too far off of station. So let's pick up our KC-10s. KC-10s carries a load of fuel. And then let's put our tornadoes on a patrol mission. So the patrol mission is going to be up threat from bad guys. So it's going to be combat air patrol, Syria, air-to-air patrol. We are going to set it so that they follow the loop, just because it's easier to manage. And let's add in a very generous prosecution area. I mean, this is a massive area, but I suspect, well, I say I suspect, I can't imagine there's a whole lot of effort that's going to go on up here. The most likely thing that's going to happen is they're going to want to try and intercept my sentry, so having a couple of tornadoes on station is good enough. Let's set our CVN 60 to move towards the coast, and then once they're on station, to just transit in a circle. Because we know there is going to be an air-to-air or an air threat from Kuwait, I'm going to want to bring Task Force LaSalle inshore so she can bring her surface-to-air weapons to bear in the event of a Iraqi incursion. So let's set up my combat air patrols. So let's set up a combat air patrol covering Kuwait, which I'm going to call CAP KSA Coast, because it's the coastal patrol zone. Probably going to want to move it a bit further up than that. Something like that. And let's define the area for which these guys are going to be responsible for intercepting. Let's call it that. Active missions on. Don't investigate within weapons range. Investigate outside of the patrol area. Good. Then we're probably going to want a couple of patrols looking to intercept any penetrating aircraft that come in from through the border. So let's call this CAP KSA Center. And then let's put these points not so I could select using these use the points from the next cap zone, but I actually find that can cause problems if I need to do any manual editing and maneuvering. Like I might want to move a patrol zone to allow me to improve a cap zone for, say, KSA cap center, but I might not want to do that for this guy. So keeping them separate does make things more useful. Okie dokie. Good, and then we want, I mean, that's quite a long patrol point there. Let's deselect you. So let's add a combat air patrol KSA North. So the patrol north and patrol center don't have to be that well manned, because they're not, and we're not foreseeing the air threat coming from this direction. It's more likely to come from Kuwait or from the Kuwaiti area. And let's make sure KSA cap center. Okay, good. So those are my patrol areas established. Let's put in on deselect points. So let's put in some air refueling KSA North. I mean, I know these names seem super boring, but it's mainly because if I need to do any changes later on, it's very clear what they actually are. Air refueling KSA Coast. And then behind that, I'm going to want to put airborne early warning, KSA East. You know, it's very annoying. I'm switching between coast and east and west. And so let's do new mission. Airborne only warning KSA West. Okay, now let's start to assign some aircraft. We've got King Faisal with their 3 F-15s. They're going to be assigned to the Combat Air Patrol to the north. They're going to be supported by F-15s from King Fahad, or there's only 2 of them. So this cap zone is going to be dodgy. There's going to be gaps, but that's why we've got the carrier group coming in. I mean, we can't really use them now because that's for 500-ish miles to get on station. It's pretty big. We don't know what's going on in this area for now. Let's hop down to King Khalid, so we can assign our sentries to the airborne early warning track to the west, and let's also assign the air refuelers to the air refueling to the north. I believe it's Daran. Assign the sentries to the airborne early warning to the east. To assign the KC-10s to the refueling to the east, or the coastal refueling zone. Probably add these guys on as well. Because I predict a lot of aircraft are going to be in the mix. Okay, let's start to bring in our coastal assets. So let's put in airborne early warning, CVN, Gulf as a support mission. Let's take CV-41, assign those Hawkeyes to that mission. For the carrier group up here, I want to put forward a probing refueling track, a probing airborne early warning track. So select these points, make points relative rotating bearing to. Actually, no, I want them to be. Make selected reference points to relative fixed bearing to CV-60. So, if this guy starts going around in circles, these guys will stay in this position relative. Well, this absolute position to wherever the task group goes. Fixed, they'll always stay here. If I select rotating, if I sent this guy to change direction, these points would rotate. I don't want that, I want them to be up threat. So let's take CV-60, and let's assign your Hawkeyes. Ooh, no, hold on, I haven't created the mission. Airborne early warning, CVN, Med. Support. So let's take the Hawkeyes, assign them to that mission. It's a lot of stuff that's going to get airborne. So to cover the KSA centre cap, I'm not going to use F-16s because they've got not much endurance. So let's use these F-16s here, these F-15s here. Cap KSA centre. Then we need to load up aircraft on the patrol zone to the at the coast. So at Daran, what have we got? Let's assign them, and assign these guys. What's useful at Doha? Well, this is all our Phantoms and Strike aircraft. Assign these chaps from Aldafra, they've got a long way to go. Oh, they got a long way to go. Yeah, still a long way to go. But they can pick up fuel if they need to on the way up, and I can also could put in a refueling track, which is probably not a bad idea in general. So let's put in a air refueling Gulf transit. So this will mainly be there for aircraft to top up on the way to and from theatre if they need to. So let's assign something like these KC-135As. Then let's go to the carrier groups. I want to save my Tomcats if I possibly can. Then again, I might not have a choice. So I don't have that many aircraft on the Forrestal or the Midway. Assign these guys to Combat Air Patrol, KSA Coast. Maybe even if you've got any Hornets here that are equipped for the. No, they're all air to ground. See, I want to keep hold of these Tomcats because they come into play later on. So let's put in. Let's absolutely make sure we've not got anything useful. I'll take it because there's a lot of aircraft in there. And I know that the point of some of these units will be to act as escorts for the strikes, but if I've got such an offensive combat air patrol position anyway, they're not going to need any dedicated strike assets. Probably going to want. Let's drop a track like this. Which I need to deselect and reselect. So, fat fingers. It's going to be our E8 track. So we've got a surface-based threat. We're going to want to have one of our J-stars up so they can keep our eyes on with what's going on. Assign you to the mission EA track. Oh, it's the wrong mission type, isn't it? Yes, air intercept. Nope, I don't want that. E8 track. Support mission. Let's go to King Khalid. Well, I'm probably going to end up wanting something like. There's a lot of reference points at play. Let's do E8 track north. And let's assign this trap to the other one, because these guys can last on station for a long time. And then I might even disregard my own rules and do this. Select these 3 points Let's add RC-135 track. So this guy is an electronic intelligence gatherer. So let's assign that to that. Got some compass call aircraft here, don't I? So I'm going to assign these compass call aircraft to my airborne only warning track near the coast because the geometry is they will actually be able to provide useful jamming. As long as I've got my mission for the airborne only warning sentry mission to make sure their MCON is active and their offensive electronic countermeasures are active. Let's make sure actually all of my... Trouble is, the game's it's set all to be passive from the start, but obviously if I'm using a massive radar to maintain situational awareness, then I'm obviously going to want it to be on. There's not much point launching your radar, launching your aircraft up and wanting to see what's going on and not wanting to turn on your sensors. So let's turn on the radars. Got my J-stars. Awesome. Damn, that's a lot of aircraft. Let's make sure. So we're going to set up missions for the A-10s and the strike aircraft once we get a fix and a more awareness on what's actually going on. All of these guys are, almost all of these guys are assigned to missions. Okay, so let's, before we do that, let's just make sure that my aircraft carriers are just a bit mobile. Let's move this chap, the Nimitz, a bit further up. By the time he gets there, rightio. Start the clock. Get things taking off. And let's make sure that these task groups are actually going to move. So let's speed up to speed 5. So this map is about to get busy with all these aircraft, and what we're probably going to want to do is go to King Khalid, take one of our Blackbirds, launch them individually and get them up close to the border to see what's going on. So put 15 speed. There we go, everything's going to start taking off now. All the stuff from the carriers are taking off. A lot of noise, a lot of Hawkeyes are taking off. Oh, one thing I forgot to cover is we do have actually some Saudi army forces near the border. But there we go. F-16s are up. Back channel sources indicate Iraq is massing forces along its border with Saudi Arabia for an invasion. Expect air and land incursions into Saudi territory beginning on or about 15th of August, 2100 hours. So less than an hour. Might actually want to get my air to surface missions sorted out sooner rather than later. But looking at the timer, this is probably a useful part. This is probably a useful time to end the part. So we've gone over the orbats, we've got all our mission tracks set up, and we are soon going to be engaged in a massive aerial battle over Kuwait. And while we've got lots of aircraft in the sky, we've actually got some bogies spotted over Jordan. Is that my... Is it my aircraft? Yeah, it's probably them. It's picked it up. My Hawkeye. Yep, my Hawkeye's picked those up. But yes, this is a useful point to stop. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you next time for the commencement of hostilities. Cheers, everyone.